Surah 54, verses 1 to 3. The hour draws nigh, and the moon is split asunder. But if they see a sign, they turn aside and say, magic, continuous. And they call it a lie, and follow their lusts. But every matter is settled. So, where does this say Muhammad did anything? It doesn't. But this is another instance where later Muslim sources claim that Muhammad performed a miracle. These much later sources say that the pagans challenged Muhammad to split the moon. Muhammad accepted the challenge and split the moon right in front of the pagans. This should make us wonder why the Quran is filled with verses about pagans asking why Muhammad never came with miracles, even though he supposedly split the moon in front of them. But there's another problem here. Muslims can't even agree on what Surah 54 verse 1 is talking about. The Halim translation says, the hour draws near, the moon is split. But there's a note, which reads, one of the signs of the day of judgment. The Arabic uses the past tense as if that day were already here to help the reader, listener, imagine how it will be. Some traditional commentators hold the view that this describes an actual event at the time of the prophet, but it clearly refers to the end of the world. And the Quran uses similar language about the end of the world elsewhere. So, some Muslims believe this has absolutely nothing to do with Muhammad splitting the moon. It's about the Day of Judgment. Here's the Yusuf Ali translation. The hour of judgment is nigh, and the moon is cleft asunder. And here's Yusuf Ali's commentary. 3 explanations are given in the Mufradat, and perhaps all 3 apply here. 1, that the moon once appeared cleft asunder in the valley of Mecca within sight of the Prophet, his companions, and some unbelievers. 2, that the prophetic past tense indicates the future, the cleaving asunder of the moon being a sign of the judgment approaching. And 3, that the phrase is metaphorical, meaning that the matter has become clear as the moon. That the first was noticed by contemporaries, including unbelievers, is clear. 9. These are polytheists of Mecca saw a sign. It says, if they see a sign, they turn away.
Okay, so we get the gist of the argument that he says the Quran chapter 54 verses 1 to 3 is not talking about the splitting of the moon, miracle of the Prophet Muhammad. Rather, it's talking about the future or the day of judgment, some kind of future event. Well, the problem is that, if you read the Quran chapter 54 verse 1, it says the hour of judgment is nigh and the moon is cleft asunder. But if they see a sign, notice what the next verse says. It says, if they see a sign. So that means that these people that the Quran is addressing saw the sign and they turn away. They say this is but a transit magic. So they saw the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad and they say it's magic. It's a magic trick. It's sorcery. So, this is clearly not talking about the future. This is talking about the future day of judgment. This is talking about a event within the Prophet Muhammad's lifetime, the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad splitting the moon in half, because he cited Yusuf Ali and he cited some other Muslim commentator. I didn't get the name, but now notice what did. He quoted 2 modern Muslim commentators. He quoted Yusuf Ali and he quoted Hakim Khan or whatever. Like the first 2 references are modern Muslim scholars. Yusuf Ali lived in the he lived in the 90s, or he wrote his commentary of the Quran in the 80s or the 90s. I don't remember. And the other translator of the Quran, of the first modern Muslim translator he used, is a modern Muslim who wrote a commentary on the Quran in the 2000s, or 2010s. I don't know what the exact reference it is, but I know that the first reference is a modern Muslim scholar who lived in, the 2000, who wrote his commentary on the Quran in 2000s or 2010s. My point is, these are two modern Muslim commentators who don't want to accept that the Prophet Muhammad performed miracles for whatever reason. So they're trying to deny that the Prophet Muhammad did miracles because, to somebody living in modern times, that sounds kind of ridiculous to believe that, Jesus and Prophet Muhammad performed miracles. So they're trying to deny that. So they have some liberal interpretations of the Quran. But that's not how Quran exegesis works. The Quran exegesis does not allow for liberal Muslims to come in there, take things out of context, spin their own interpretations, just because they don't like what the verse is saying. If the verse is saying that the Prophet Muhammad split the moon in front of people and in front of disbelievers, and the disbelievers are saying that they saw a sign, and they're turning away and say this is nothing but magic. Well, the Quran, chapter 54, verses 1 to 2, the context is talking about a situation during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, and it's not talking about the future. You see what I'm saying? So the Quran, chapter 54, verses 1 to 2, is talking about the miracle that the Prophet Muhammad did in front of the pagans, or in front of his own people, or the disbelievers around him. So that clearly refers to a miracle that the Prophet Muhammad did, splitting the moon in half and putting it back together. Because, how do we know this? Because if you read Tafsir Ibn Kathir in Nasab Asal al-Nazul by al-Wahadi, they comment that Quran chapter 54 verses 1 to 2 is talking about the miracle that the Prophet Muhammad did, which is splitting the moon in half and putting it back together in front of the pagans. Sahih Bukhari mentions this. Sahih Muslim mentions this. Tafsir Jalaluddin mentions that, and Tafsir Jalaluddin is he was a classical Muslim scholar. I think he lived in the 14th century or something like that. He says that this is authenticated. This event, or these Quranic verses, are talking about the splitting of the moon and putting it back together again by Sheikh Bukhari and Sheikh Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim wrote the Hadith, and anybody who knows anything about Islamic sources know that Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are the most authentic sources of Islam. It goes to Quran, then it goes Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, according to Orthodox Muslims. So they use Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim to draw their conclusions, or to understand certain or to get information about Islam from Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So those are the two most important Muslim sources. So if Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Tafsir al-Jalaluddin, all these classical Muslim scholars, Asab al-Nazul by al-Wahidi, if all these classical and early Muslim scholars are saying, no, Ibn Kathir did not come 700 years later. Ibn Kathir incorporated a lot of earlier material from the eyewitnesses, like Ibn Abbas, other, classical, other, Muslim disciples of the Prophet Muhammad, companions of the Prophet Muhammad. Ibn Kathir records from Ibn Abbas and, all these early Muslim scholars who were eyewitnesses during the time of the Prophet Muhammad. But anyways, if all these classical and early Muslim scholars are agreeing that the Quran chapter 54 is talking about the splitting of the moon, and these people knew the eyewitnesses of the Prophet Muhammad, etc., and they had no reason to invent that miracle, then that's what the Quran chapter 54 is talking about, because it's talking about a miracle in front of the unbelievers. Because notice what the verse says. It says, if they see a sign and they turn away and say, this is nothing but transient magic. So the disbelievers are seeing the miracle in front of them, and they're still rejecting it, saying this is transient, this is nothing but magic, or this is nothing but sorcery, and according to Quran chapter 54 verse 2. So what that means is that the Quran is talking about a present situation and not a future situation. So even if you want to refer to the future, the splitting of the moon is a miracle and a sign of Judgment Day, because Muslims believe in certain prophecies coming true. So, if Muslims believe in certain prophecies of situations coming true, then of course the Quran is going to say the hour of judgment is nigh, and the moon is split asunder. Of course, the Quran is going to talk about this being in the context, or being in the context of the day of of Judgment Day. But regardless, this argument of him is only using modern Muslim scholars and not classical Muslim scholars. Because if you read Tafsir Ibn Kathir confirms that the Quran chapter 54 was talking about splitting of the moon in half and putting it back together again. And Ibn Kathir writes this is one of the clear miracles Allah gave the Prophet Muhammad. So if you ask any critic of Islam, what's the best tafsir, or what's the best commentary on the Quran, most of them will say Ibn Kathir. So their own sources refute them, because Ibn Kathir is clearly saying this is talking about a miracle of the Prophet Muhammad and not some kind of future event. So, like, who are we to believe? Are we to believe modern people who have liberal ideologies, or are we to believe classical and early Muslim scholars who knew the companions or knew the disciples of the Prophet Muhammad and are writing down commentaries on the Quran based on the earliest sources, being Ibn Abbas, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, notice what David Wood did. He quotes Yusuf Ali, etc. But Yusuf Ali, it is said that Yusuf Ali has liberal ideologies and kind of rejects miracles and supernatural claims. So Prophet Muhammad performing the miracle, splitting the moon in half and putting it back together, is a supernatural claim that Christians and Jews can't disprove, because Jews and Christians believe in the supernatural. They believe in miracles, etc. According to the Bible, the Bible's filled with supernatural events and miracles and and things like that. So so Christians can't reject this miracle of the Prophet Muhammad unless they want to throw all the sources under the bus, or all the classical Muslim sources under the bus, and go with modern Muslim commentators and translators. So you see the deception of David Wood. He's talking about Yusuf Ali rejecting that the miracle, and the other Khan or Hakim, whatever, rejecting that miracle. Yeah, because those people, they have liberal ideologies that they reject any kind of miracle claims of Islam or the Prophet Muhammad. So of course they're going to reject the idea that Prophet Muhammad did a miracle, and they're going to reject that because they have liberal ideologies. But if you read classical Muslim commentators, they're saying that those verses those verses are talking about the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad splitting the moon in half and putting it back together in front of the pagans, the pagan Quraysh or whatever. So this refutes David Wood's claim, because he's not citing Ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas, or he's not citing Ibn Kathir, Tafsir al-Jalaluddin, etc. He's just citing modern Muslim commentators that reject the supernatural, or have some liberal ideologies and reject the supernatural. But of course, Muslims have to believe in the supernatural, because the supernatural is like all over in the Quran. So this refers to a miracle of the Prophet. Quran chapter 54 verses 1-2 refers to miracles. The miracle of the Prophet Muhammad, according to the classical Muslim scholars, Ibn Kathir, al-Jalaluddin, al-Wahdi, etc. And of course, these people incorporated earlier material into their material. So again, this shows David Wood's inconsistency. He's not citing Ibn Kathir, he's not citing al-Wahdi, or he's not citing Tafsir al-Jalaluddin, classical and early Muslim scholars. He's citing modern Muslim scholars who want to reject the supernatural, and want to go into liberal ideologies to reject supernaturalism. So this shows inconsistency on David Wood's part, and it shows he's being deceptive of his use of the sources. So the Quran chapter 54 verses 1-2 is talking about the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad as confirmed by Tafsir al-Jalaluddin, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, etc., and al-Wahdi, etc., etc. So this refutes David Wood's claim. Stay tuned, more videos coming up ahead.